Hello everyone. I wanted to make a very quick video on a topic that I find relatively interesting and I've been experimenting with lately, and that is the Fletcher Munson curve for your overall equipment sound, your in-room response. So quick update on the Fletcher Munson curve. Here we have the Fletcher Munson curve, and basically this is how we perceive audio at different levels. So when you have the threshold of audibility, it's a bit lower than this, I believe, in actuality, but this, so you hear the like 1 to 6K very easily. That's the most sensitive part of your hearing, and then as you get lower or get higher, it gets a bit harder to hear, because here at 25 dB, 25 hertz, excuse me, you need about 60 to 65 dB before you can even hear that frequency. So you see that this response is not very linear. So you start out at 60, where you can basically hear below 0 dB, and then you have, for example, 80, which is a relatively normal listening level. That's 15 decibels maybe of difference between those two, while you have 80 decibels difference in perceived loudness at 1K, and it's about the same. This bottom part, everything from pretty much 1K onward is relatively linear, and then it starts going down. So what do I want to achieve with this video? I want you to turn up your sub and basically try and make your curve, your room curve, look a little bit like this, up to about 100 hertz. I am gonna try and completely decouple my subwoofer from my preamp, so it's not controlled. The volume is no longer controlled by the preamp, but it's on its own, completely controlled by the DAC, and then it just stays there at about I guess about 80 decibels. And when I turn down the music, like from 80 to 70 dB, it doesn't need to change that much to be about as loud to your ear. It's only a couple of dBs difference, while this part is 10 decibels, is quite a lot. And why I came up with this is because, well, I busted my hearing recently, and I want to listen to music on a lower level. I don't want to play it as loud anymore. I want to basically below 70 as much as possible, with peak ups to 80, but not continuous load of 80 dB constantly, because everything above 80 starts to get damaging to your ears for long periods when you're exposed to it for long periods of time. And everything above 90, like 90 is barely an hour, and you have permanent hearing damage when you do it continuously. And a lot of audiophiles listen relatively loud, which I always found strange, because you can never do it long, and I like to listen to music pretty much all day. So what I wanted to show you is where we started, is the room curve. So quick tip for your room EQ wizard is press shift when you're in the SPL and phase panel, and then you can draw this nice line, and it will show you the slopes and everything. And this is basically the average line with a plus or minus 3 dB point on the red, with the normal with the trend in blue. So basically what I want to do is have this follow the Fletcher Munson curve somewhat, and that is up to me to make. I want to listen to about 70-75 decibels on average. So here you have 70 dB, and so I want this to end up at about 85. Oh, that was a bit too quick. So this is about 85, 86 dB for about 1K. And I wanted just to relatively gradually slope down. So this right now is a bit of a miss. And by the way, I'm on a psychoacoustic frequency plot. So I'm gonna do a little experiment. I'm gonna turn up the crossover point. It's right now it's at 50 dB, 50 hertz. Getting my hertz and my dBs messed up today. I'm gonna go from 50 to about 75 to see if I can flatten this down a bit, and maybe even try 100, but then I'll probably notice the sub when you play the sub that loud compared to the rest of your system. It's quite easy to notice when it's crossed over relatively high. So I'm gonna do a little experiment. So I did the experiment and here are the results. You can see that the green line, that it's a bit higher in level now, so it's a bit more gradual towards that 100 Hertz mark that I set for the experiment to function. So this should be about 100 to 200 Hertz, and then it should be relatively linear. Well, you can see I have a bit of a dip here at around 120 Hertz, but that's just the room. That's not being really convenient, and I do not want to up the gain of the sub anymore, or the crossover point. But the level is a bit more gradual, and I've listened to it and I cannot identify where the sub is, so that's still great. In the future I do want to experiment with not having the sub plugged into the preamp, so it doesn't follow with me changing the speaker volume, so that basically everything under 50 Hertz is not controlled by the preamp. So this will pretty much stay at any level, at the same level as it was before. And then when I turn up the music or turn it down like this, it's just a couple of dBs off. So at 75 or 70 it might sound pretty much natural. At 90 dB it sounds a bit lean, and at 50 dB it sounds maybe a bit lively, a bit boomy, but I'm willing to accept that. So I'm gonna experiment with that to see how low I can get the listening levels and still feel like I'm listening to music. Again, hearing protection is very much needed. I always turned up my system probably above 80 to listen to music, but I'm now starting to notice that I have a bit of a ring in my ear that won't go away. It's only at low levels. It's really low level, and it fluctuates a bit in intensity. So protect your ears, turn up your sub so you can protect the most delicate parts of your hearing right here. Thank you, and see you in the next video.